Hello, hello, hello today. This is me, Danielle Burnock from DanielleBurnock.com. Love yourself from Survive to Thrive, that lady on the internet who loves you. Today with a special guest named Tricia Roos. And she is going to be sharing her story of how she has come through something really hard. How many of you have ever lost a child? Well, she lost her child after only 6 days. And she is also an author. And she helps other people to bring awareness about what it was that took her daughter's life, which was a thing called Trisomy 18. And so I'm going to bring her in here so you can meet her. And here we go. Hey, Tricia, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So thank you for being with me here today and sharing your story. This can be kind of an emotional thing, talking about losing a child. I have a lot of friends who have gone through that, and it's horribly painful. It's horribly painful to watch also, because you can't help someone. You just have to just walk alongside them. So why don't we start with a little bit of, tell us about your life before your daughter entered the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I met my husband at Baylor University. That's where we went to college. And after we were married, we moved up to Dallas, Texas. That's where we currently reside. And after several years of marriage, we were ready to have kids. And so in 2011, we had our son, Cameron. And about 3 years later, 3.5 years later, so he started asking us for a lady baby. And so I think what happened was at daycare, he saw a little friend get a baby girl, and for whatever reason, he called her a lady baby. And
That's so
I
cute.
think in his world, it was just, I guess we just asked for one and we're given a baby. So without having to go into too much explanation, we just said, pray to God about it and we'll see what happens. But that is when my husband and I started talking about having another child. And within a few months, we were pregnant, and everything was going great with the pregnancy in the beginning. And right around 12 weeks, our doctor allowed us to know that we could do a blood test to reveal gender. And we were excited to know the gender of the baby, as a lot of people are with these fancy gender reveals these days. And so about 10 days later, I hadn't really thought about that blood test. I got a doctor call, and she announced that we were having a baby girl, but her voice was a little bit more stern and let us know that the baby also tested positive for trisomy 18. So I had no idea what that meant. She said I needed to come home. I was in Portland at a work conference at the time and go see a specialist. And we did that the next day, and the diagnosis was confirmed. And most people are familiar with trisomy 21 being Down syndrome. Trisomy 18 is called Edwards syndrome, and it's just usually just a more severe than Down syndrome. So babies typically have more heart conditions and other issues, and most women statistically don't make it full term. It ends in a stillbirth. And so that particular specialist had recommended an abortion, and we just felt like we couldn't do that. So we continued the pregnancy. I was coaching high school volleyball at the time, and my team actually won the state championship in her honor, and just played extremely selfless for each other and for our family, which was an amazing blessing. And then about a month and a half later, after the volleyball season ended, she was born alive at a big hospital here in Dallas. And then she lived 6 beautiful days on earth, and we were super lucky and blessed to meet her alive. We knew that with her 2-chamber heart that wouldn't last long. No heart doctor in the world will do a surgery on a 3-pound child and try to add a chamber of a heart. It's just not possible. And so we wanted to do the best we could to take care of her and love her and introduce her to our family before she passed away.
Wow. I'd not heard Down syndrome called trisomy anything. I'd heard something about the 21, but what does trisomy mean? Do you know what that means?
Yeah, so for us with trisomy 18 at conception, an extra chromosome like a third chromosome goes a different direction. I mean, in our case, it was not genetic. It was just one of those fluke things that happened. And because of that happening, those children are born, severely disabled and have other conditions as well. So as we continued along with the pregnancy, we started to learn specifically what her conditions were. And one of them being the heart condition. We saw right around 20 weeks that she had a 2-chamber heart instead of a 4-chamber heart. So, we learned a lot through that pregnancy, but we just continued to have faith and wanted to allow God to write her story instead of us, because we wanted to just do anything we could, for her during and after the pregnancy.
Wow. What was your driving force to make the decision to keep her?
Well, there was a couple things. I mean, I will say there was a lot of processing that took place in the beginning, because this all happened within a 24-hour period, finding out about the trisomy 18, flying home and going to a specialist and being given that recommendation. And our first concern was, would they say that I should have an abortion because my life was at stake? Because we'd never been through anything like this. And with some more research, we realized, it was possible for me to gain more weight and retain more fluid and some other things like that, but it wasn't necessarily that my life was at risk. And, we talked to our family, we prayed a lot, we cried a lot. And for us, it was really a faith-based decision. And another thing that hit me during that time was, I was a volleyball coach, and my whole life had revolved around coaching athletes. And the number one thing you ask from your athletes is to just give their all and to try their best no matter the outcome. And so that means that you may lose a game or a competition, a match. And as long as you tried your best, that's all a coach can ask for. And I felt like with volleyball season looming on the horizon, a week later starting, I wanted to put my faith into action and show that I was going to give this, the best shot I could, whether we lost her or got to keep her. And so I kind of think that between our faith, talking to family and processing the situation, and just the fact that my identity was really in coaching athletes, I felt really convicted that was the right choice for us.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that as a twofold thing of your faith required you to do that, but then you wanted to put your integrity, your faith, and everything you are on display in leadership for these young people. And that's just so commendable. I mean, that's a very bold choice, because you were very vulnerable to do that, because you had no idea what the outcome was going to be. So that is very courageous. And I commend you for that, because that's an added thing to do it, just not to belittle, to do it for yourself, but you're doing that in private. But you chose to make your choice very public. So I commend you on that. That was very, very courageous of you. So,
well, not only I had a platform as a coach and as a director of admissions, but pregnancy is very physical. And so a lot of things that you can't hide gaining a huge belly on the front of your body. And, for us, when we made that decision, I literally said, I need to just email and tell everyone on Facebook and social media what is happening with us. And part of that was because I was just scared to have those individual conversations with hundreds of people individually, and the emotion that would cause. And it was easier for me to just say, hey, look, this is our decision. This is what we're doing. This is what we're going through. And for my athletes, it was, I don't know if I'm making it through the end of the season with you. The assistant coach may have to take over, because if she ends up passing away, sometime in the middle of pregnancy, I will have to deliver her like anyone else would, and essentially be on maternity leave for the recovery for that. And so I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't think there was any other choice than to pursue the pregnancy and to continue going.
Oh, that's awesome. I can see how putting it out there in a group would be very helpful. You don't have to repeat it over and over and over and over again. Wow. So you went through this, and we talked about in in our pre-interview a little bit, you brought up a couple of terms that I want to give you the opportunity to elaborate on, because you already answered what carried you, and I know you don't have any regret over what you have done, but you talked about the value in her life and also about grief that comes before grief. Can you share a little bit about those?
Yeah, so for most of us, when we're grieving the loss of someone passing away, it's after the fact. And it could have been a little bit of notice, if somebody is terminally ill. But most of the time when people die, it's relatively unexpected, or you process those emotions after it's happened. But I was told early in my pregnancy that my daughter would likely pass away either at birth or before birth or very shortly after. And so it's a weird world to live in when you're grieving the loss of something that is still alive inside of you. And it was really hard some days to push that aside. But I also knew that while she was alive inside of me, that was my time with her and that I should cherish that time. And so it was a weird paradigm, because part of me was sad and grieving, but then the other part was wanting to celebrate the life that she had every day that she had it. And I remember so many times, crying myself to sleep, or oftentimes crying my way into work. And I just had an overwhelming that just through that day or through that night to into the next. And I can't explain that other than it being spiritual. But I do think that there is a lot of pain when you're going through grief, but you have to constantly seek hope and seek guidance and seek love and seek community, or you can get really stuck in that grief and go down a pretty bad rabbit hole.
Wow. Yeah, that's so true. So true. The internet got a little wonky on my side. I don't know if it did on yours, but just to reiterate, in case, I think I know what you said. You said that you just had a sense of peace. Is that what you said? Okay, so I wanted to say that again in case the wah, wah, wah of the internet put that out. I wanted to, you had a sense of peace and that carried you, and that's really important. So.
Yeah, it was only something I think faith can really explain, is just having a sense of peace, even if it was to get through that night, to get through that day, to get through that hour. It was just, okay, one step at a time, cherish the time that you have.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. It's giving me a flashback to when I was pregnant, which was a long, long time ago. But I remember just my favorite part of the whole pregnancy was feeling the life inside of me. There's just anything else in life that has ever compared to that. And so, I mean, you were able to have the joy of that, even though she had her problems in that, you were blessed with sensing her life inside of you. It's just, that's so precious. And I'm happy that you were able to experience that.
Me too.
And you said after Annabelle, was Annabelle, right? Mm-hmm. After Annabelle passed, you got pregnant 6 months later. How did you feel about that? Were you afraid? How did you feel about getting pregnant so quickly after?
Yeah, it was a lot of emotion. I think part of me, I wanted a baby so bad. I wanted another child. I wanted a sibling for my son. And we knew that, as women get older, it becomes harder to have a baby. And so we wanted to try again. I think that something I didn't really expect is how difficult it was emotionally to be pregnant again that soon. And that's for a couple different reasons. Number one, it's because you now know the complications that can come with pregnancy that I just wasn't aware of before. That was my own ignorance, but it was because I had a healthy pregnancy with my son. I was much younger when I had him, and I didn't even think that anything bad could happen with that pregnancy. And now knowing better and being, several years older, it was scary. And I, for some reason, had a hard time trusting that it would be okay. I always thought, okay, it might be okay now, but what if that changes? And, what if something comes up on the next sonogram and this all falls apart? The other thing I dealt with that I did not expect was I guess you can just call it, like I felt really guilty that I was celebrating this pregnancy. I was having baby showers and receiving gifts, but we did not have any baby showers for Annabelle. And, I think in that situation, I felt like if we would have baby showers and I asked people to buy all these gifts and then she ended up dying or not making it, I just felt bad. Like that wasn't right to ask people to buy things. And since we still had a car seat and we still had a crib and things from our son, we thought we'll just borrow and use those and then take it day by day with her and see what happens. But then with Andy, my little rainbow baby, it was showers and presents and parties. And I really had to give myself some space and compassion and tell myself to not be guilty for that. Because I remember at one of my baby showers, I was happy and having a great time. And I remember just almost breaking down in tears because all of a sudden this wave of guilt took over me and said, why didn't you do this for Annabelle? Like she deserved this also. But there were different circumstances, and you do what you can to protect your heart, I think, in a lot of situations. And I also knew at the pregnancy with Annabelle, I could not bring myself to decorate a room and prepare for something and let myself think something would happen if it might not. And so there was just a lot of unexpected emotion and fear with that pregnancy. But now she's here, she's healthy, she's wonderful. I remember when I had a C-section and she came out and she was crying. That was the first moment that I actually believed that it was okay. And she was here, she was healthy, she was a huge baby in my arms. But
it must be so much relief.
Yeah, I mean, like I just cried and took deep breaths finally, because it felt like almost 2 years worth of pain and struggle to get to that point for my rainbow baby. So, but that's a part of it. I think that we all, when you love someone or something and you have to let it go, it's really hard to love again and it's hard to try again. But if we don't put ourselves out there, we don't know what we're missing out on.
Right. Right. And I can so appreciate those feelings you were talking about having at the shower. It's like it sounds a little bit like survivor's guilt and a little bit not. And I can just appreciate that so much because the circumstances were so different. But the mama's heart is like wanting to just give all for all of them. And so wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. And rainbow baby, for people who may not know what a rainbow baby is a baby that is born after the loss of a child. So I have a rainbow grandchild. And we have a rainbow kid, we called it. My daughter-in-law said this the other day because they foster also. And so they have a foster son that they're in the process of adopting who came after the most recent miscarriage. So he wasn't born, but he came. And so he's still a rainbow.
Exactly.
So that's awesome. So how has this whole experience changed you? And how did you take ownership of all of that to overcome? That's just so much. There is a lot in there to do that. How did you mentioned about finding purpose or something in pain or something.
Yeah, I did an interview for the Dallas Morning News in 2014 when I was pregnant, and I don't remember saying this, but it was in the article, so I believe it. But I said I have to find purpose in the pain, and I still feel that way today. I mean, I had really good foresight to say that, because when you're going through something that is tragic and hard, you feel like you have to know that God has a purpose in this for it to be worth it, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And for us, I think that there's a lot of purpose in Annabelle's life. Number one, it's proving that the life of a child that only lived for 6 days can impact others and can have, their footprint on this world just as much as we can, and only lived for 6 days. Another thing I think, and this is common, I think, for a lot of parents who have lost a child, is that you just want to keep the memory of that child alive and honor them. And you feel like you can do that through sharing the story and, particularly guiding and talking with others that are going through a similar situation.
Yeah.
Because you've been there. And I remember there was just some days where I felt incredibly alone and helpless and isolated because no one in my direct friend circle had been in the same situation as I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized for me, I really needed to seek out community and find someone that could relate directly to me and understand who I was and what I was going through.
Yeah.
And so I actually found some great Facebook communities for Trisomy 18 parents. And I had breakfast, lunch, dinner, any meal that I could have with somebody that had experienced a similar situation. Many phone calls of people that were out of state that maybe a neutral friend connected us together.
Wow.
And that to me means that like you have a person that really gets you. And
Right.
I think sometimes it's hard to reach out and you don't want to talk about it. You just want to lock yourself in your house and cry. But I can tell you it really does help. It helps to find others in your same situation and just allow that person to give you some guidance and some advice. And not all of their advice will be completely applicable to you, but at least hearing their experience. And so for me, it's almost been 7 years, and I started writing the book When Wishes Change about this situation about 2 years ago almost. And I just knew I had to write a book, and I knew I was more ready to write
Mm-hmm.
than I was before. I tried writing a few years later, and I would just cry, and it was emotional, and my emotional capacity wasn't ready to like switch gears from writing to my normal life and act normal. It just wasn't possible.
Right.
So I put it off.
There's a
And
way
now,
people put that about writing from a scar instead of writing from a wound. It's like you needed to heal more so that you could write from the scar instead of from the open wound.
oh, and it's not fair to do something like that too early and then not give myself to my husband and to my kids that I have on earth and be depressed and moping around because I was so vested in the writing and it was too hard. And what really happened in that writing process, which happened all over 2020, was I had so many memories that came back that I had had no recollection of prior to writing. It was just weird. I think when
That's
I was
awesome.
in it, and I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would remember something so vividly, and I didn't remember it the day before, and I would just get my laptop open and just start writing. And so it kind of was written in pieces, and then I finally brought it all together. But even at the end of the writing process, I was so scared to put it out in the world because I thought it was too vulnerable. It was really honest and it was really emotional. And it wasn't until I met my editor, and I mean, she was almost a therapist to me as we worked through the writing process to put it together. And I remember feeling that after I wrote the book and we edited the book, I now felt like I could share more. I would shed less tears sharing. And I had finally climbed up this really big mountain. And now I felt like I could turn around and pull people with me and give guidance and give advice and be able to speak about my experience. And I couldn't have done that even a year ago. So it's amazing how the writing process was extremely therapeutic in time, like giving it several years and allowing myself. I had some relapses just 2 years ago about my grief and trying to understand
Sure.
it better.
Oh, yeah.
Hard.
I'm sure you'll have in the grief training I went through and the losses in my life, I learned the term grief surge.
Mm.
It's like you'll be going along and you'll just have a surge and it'd be like a wave overtakes you and then you're like out of it for a while because you're so engulfed in that, but then it dissipates quicker as you move on in your journey. They don't last for days.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this book, and tell us the name of your book, and if you can hold it up for those who are watching, that would be awesome. Do you have it by you? I forgot to ask you to make sure you had it with you.
I mean, I always do. Oh, I do. I have one right behind here. Because the cover is beautiful. It's really pretty. So my book is
What's the subtitle to it also?
Yeah, the title is When Wishes Change. And, at first when you're writing about a story about a child that you've lost, I know a lot of books are called, somebody's story or somebody's journey or whatever. And as I was writing, I was trying to make it much more than that. I was trying to make it more about when you're faced with these wishes and dreams that you have and they change, how do you respond to that change and what do you do in that situation? And I was, at a lunch with my editor and we were talking and she just stopped me mid-sentence and said, I think you just found the title of your book. And I used the phrase when wishes change. And that just spoke volumes to me because I have recently made a job change. And again, I found myself in a situation when wishes change, when I thought I was going one direction with my life and God moved me in a new direction. And I find myself using that phrase when I'm talking with people and they're like, yeah, that's not how I wanted it to go. And I say, well, when wishes change. So I need to coin the term. The book title is copyrighted, but I think I need it to be in some kind of coined phrase that we use because it really, I think it's more applicable than ever before as we just went through a pandemic and we're continuing to navigate the changes through the pandemic. But a lot of us have had a lot of change and a lot of wishes shattered, to be honest, things that we thought would be our story and where we would end up in our lives. And it just didn't happen that way. And you can get wrapped up in that change and be bitter and angry and just sit on it forever. Or you can wrestle with it and still have some anger and bitterness, but move on and move past it and see that there's a bigger for that and that pain and in that. I mean, even writing a thing that happened almost 7 years ago and a very pivotal time in my life, I was also experiencing a job change. And I think that was God's way of saying, hey, this is a bigger story than just the story about Annabelle. It's about helping people navigate change and turning a tragedy or loss into something that can be hopeful.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Applying it. There's a lot of people who have lost a lot of wishes over the last 2 years. There's companies that have shut down, jobs lost, people lost. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. From the big to the small. I mean, it touches our hearts no matter how large it may look to someone else.
Yeah.
So also, how can people connect with you if they would like to connect with you? Share with our audience how you can connect.
I have a website, just triciaroos.com. It also connects to whenwisheschange.com. And what I think is cool about the website actually is that on my author page, I have some behind the scenes footage and videos, because one thing I didn't mention is that during this time in my life when I was pregnant with Annabelle and my team won the state championship, the whole story was actually made into a documentary. And
oh, wow.
So thousands and thousands of hours were just collected on video of our entire experience. So in Texas, we have kind of a large newspaper. Also, they do a lot of videos called the Texas Catholic. And at first they wanted to just do a story. And then they asked, let's think about miking you up and following you through this journey, no matter how it ends. Let's see how this story plays out. And so they started following me around in August, so 2 weeks after the diagnosis.
Wow.
And so the documentary is on there. There's several videos. There's real footage of me hugely pregnant, coaching in a state championship game, jumping up and down. I know my doctor didn't like that. My blood pressure was high after a game, but I just got really excited about our victories. So I have that on there, and then I'm doing a lot of consulting as well. So it's kind of an interesting little mixed bag on the website. And then I really believe with social media, I found myself at one point just following friends and celebrities, and it just had no meaning for my life. It wasn't necessarily making me happy. It was just a lot of FOMO, or just like, why isn't my life or my house as clean and organized as everybody else? And so I started kind of following more authors and inspirational speakers and motivational quotes and messaging. I follow a lot of just pregnancy loss and awareness sites as well, and Instagram accounts, because I feel like they give a lot more hope. And if that's part of what you're scrolling through in the day, it can make your day a little better. And so I do have a Facebook community at When Wishes Change.
Cool.
And then I also on Instagram have When Wishes Change. And I even now have a TikTok, and I will go ahead and admit that's not me. It's my like social media expert that helps with that. But, you know, in social media, I think mixing in motivation, devotionals, quotes, pictures, and just real life, but more inspirational
Oh, yeah.
is a lot more better holistically than just following Kim Kardashian and whatever other celebrities that everybody follows around. So I hope that the Instagram account can be one that everybody follows and just gets a little uplift from the day. The TikTok account, it's like there's a story about our story with Annabelle, and then the next one is a little makeup tutorial of my 5-year-old applying makeup. And so she's like closing this eye and like putting eyeshadow on this eye, and she's wearing a princess dress. I mean, the child is absolutely ridiculous, but she's a lot of fun and she brings joy to my day. And I feel like that was a video that I think people will think is funny and enjoyable. And maybe you're going through a tough day and you need to just look at that video real quick. So I'm trying. And then my book is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and can be found just about anywhere. And I really think it's great as a gift for anyone that's gone through a change. I've heard that a lot from readers, is that it really just found them where they were at. Maybe they were in a funk, and it's a quick read. Most people read it in like 2 sittings or less because they just find themselves really engaged. So I know at my book launch this week, a lot of people were buying it up as Christmas gifts or teacher appreciation gifts. That's kind of an easy way to do it. And yeah, I mean, I think that we can find inspiration through books, through podcasts, through social media, through all different kinds of ways. And we have to continue to keep doing that to be constantly encouraged in our lives.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The world will suck the life out of you if you let it. So surrounding yourself with all that positive stuff is really excellent. So thank you. Thank you so much, Tricia. And thank you for being with us today. I just really appreciate you just opening your heart and making yourself vulnerable to my audience today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
And I will talk to you in just a minute.
Okay.
So thank you for being with me today and with my friend Tricia and her amazing story. And look her up on her website and get a copy of her book. Follow her TikTok, her Instagram. And remember, I'm that lady on the internet who loves you. And so until next time, mwah.